Good morning, evening, afternoon, night. I don't know, when you're just driving and you're bored. I don't know when you people watch these things. Just like and subscribe because that's what they tell you what to do. And you've probably been hearing a lot of things about Miami-Dade not expanding early voting to college campuses, and that is absolutely the right decision. Wait, what? This is 5 minutes of Frank Secreta telling you why early voting on college campuses is actually a mistake, not just for a few politicians, but for voting in general. So remember, like and subscribe, because that's what they tell you you're supposed to do. But I'm not your dad. Do whatever you want. So a little bit of background. So unlike New York, where you don't have early voting, and quite frankly, I don't know, pick a card out of a hat and decide when voting starts. I mean, some boroughs are 6 o'clock, some counties are 12, some are 9, some are when the dude gets coffee. I mean, really, New York, get your shit together. Stop blaming Florida for elections. I mean, really, you don't have early voting. You got to register to vote like 6 months ahead of time if you want to switch parties. I mean, that's insanity in 2018. So stop knocking Florida for some weird election laws like we don't keep the voting polls open on early voting days for like 14 hours. Screw you. But back to Florida. Now, about 16 years ago, the Florida legislature passed an early voting ordinance law. And in the early voting, depending on what county you live, somewhere between 7 and 14 days before the election, you get to vote early. You can go anywhere you want in the county, as long as you live in that county. They give you a ballot, no matter where you are. You fill it out, and boom, bing, bang, done. You're done. And while it doesn't necessarily decrease the mountain of voting mail that you will get, because, well, candidates don't always pay to get those lists updated, you at least get it out of the way. And it's been highly successful. Something like between 65 and 70% of all Floridians who voted either early voting or absentee this primary back in August. Now, even though the law specifically did not include colleges and universities, and there was a good reason, they actually are logistical nightmares, and we'll get into that, the Florida Supreme Court decided that that was somehow discriminatory against young voters and could now be included. And what has happened is your most liberal counties in the state, with high public universities like FSU, FIU, FAMU, and Broward and Palm Beach, have decided to expand voting to college campuses because they think that it's going to actually help get Democrats elected. Well, that's not the technical reason, but that's the real reason. And the reality is it doesn't, and I'm going to explain why. But in Miami-Dade, where we actually do not elect our elections chief, that person is appointed and accountable to the county mayor, we are not expanding our early voting. And there's a lot of good reasons why. The first thing is they're super expensive, like $250,000 expensive to add a new polling. Wait a minute. $250,000? Like straight cash homie, $250,000, like Randy Moss like type checks back in the day? Yes, and here's why. There are 27 early voting spots that were in the primary, now in the general here in Miami-Dade. And the one thing you can't find is people to actually work them because, again, it's a part-time job. So what happens is that county staff makes up the bulk of the people working the early voting polls. And two things. One, they're not working their job, which if their job was that unessential that they could go 2 weeks without working, maybe they shouldn't have that job. That's another story. But two, they get paid overtime after 40 hours. And when you put into site spots, the number of people working there, it's about $250,000 to run an early voting spot. Early voting is more expensive than early voting is more expensive than day of voting. And it's a lot more expensive. So you want to get the most bang out of your buck, right? So why would you want to put them on a college campus? There's two types of college campuses. There's the mostly commuter ones where there is almost no on-campus housing, like, say, Miami-Dade South, FIU. I know there is some on campus, but very little. Broward Community College, regional colleges like Nova Southeastern or little small tech schools. These people are coming in and out. A lot of part-timers, a lot of people who are going to be there all day intensive. Yeah, if they're all day intensive, you can take a spot and go and vote real quick. It makes sense for you, but for the vast majority of people, that's not the best thing. And quite frankly, how many people who don't go to those colleges or universities actually go there for random events? It's actually pretty light, right? Other than graduation. Whoa, that was cool. Other than graduation, they don't usually go on campus. Kind of makes sense, right? So they're not going to go there to early vote. They're going to go to a library where they know it's easy in and out. They're going to go to city hall, school boards, like they already go now. Then the other side is the mostly residential colleges, like University of Miami or Lynn University in Palm Beach. And they, again, are completely make no sense. First off, in a primary, they're completely useless. You have to live there 29 days beforehand to register to vote. So you're going to put an early voting spot around a bunch of people who are ineligible to vote? I don't know. Then take into account that half the population of Miami comes from another state, 20 of which are foreign born. And you're talking about 6,500 people that could never vote in any election, right? Where you're going to have 13,000 people there. You already have half the people who can't vote there. And again, most people don't go on campus unless they can, unless they have an event there, and that's pretty rare. And it's really hard to put a spot where you could actually get people to show up, and that's the logistical nightmare that is on-campus voting. Now, let me see, you do the Convocation Center where they do early voting, and that's one day of headache, or where they do general election voting, and that's one day of headache. But try to find parking on Tuesday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon if you don't go to school there. Hell, just try to find it when you do go to school there, right? How many people have to drive around to the next parking lot, try to run to class to go there? Now throw in that you're going to throw in all those county employees who are going to be there all day, picking up a parking spot all day. Then you're talking about all the people who work in campaigns. And let's say you've got 15 spots on the ballot, right? You probably have 40 people there from campaigns who probably didn't commute in one car. So now you're talking about 50 more parking spots to be taken away to people who already don't have enough parking. And then throw in, well, you could do it centrally located, right? Like you could do it at the University Center at Miami. Well, then that defeats the whole purpose of getting people to come off campus to get there. And again, half your population doesn't go to school there. Or if you do it at FIU, I'm pretty certain that if I was, I don't know, a Democrat running for governor, that I wouldn't want to, have an early voting spot at a place called the Graham Center, whose entire campaign was based off of, at least there in South Florida, that she was Bob Graham's daughter. So why would you want to have an early voting spot at a place that's, I don't know, named after a candidate? I'm waiting. Just give me those answers. Oh, and this is a video and you're watching it. Sorry. So yeah, it's actually not good overall optics. So yeah, young people, I know what you're thinking. You just don't want young people to vote because they're Democrats. No, it's not it. I want Republicans to go and get young people to vote. And I was voting as a Republican at 18. So clearly you can convince people to join a political party. But what makes more sense? You got to, again, just make people, give them a reason to want to vote. And it's worked very well amongst the religious African-American community, right? In Florida, if you hear souls to the polls, Sunday, go to church. Afterwards, go to the polls. They're not going to on-campus spots. They're going to some polling spot, right? Taking cars, taking buses, bringing a friend to the polls. African-American voting on Sundays was probably what helped Andrew Gillum win the primary, right? Because a lot of those members wanted to vote for Andrew Gillum, and they did. And if you give young people a reason to vote, they'll go and vote. I mean, you can caravan people, trust me. You tell people, hey, let's go vote on preventing a beer tax, and trust me, we will show up. Well, I won't. I'm way past young at this point. But when I was 21 and legal to drink, I would show up to things that would prevent, beer taxes, wine taxes, So yeah, that'll get people to vote. And you don't need an on-campus location to do it. You need parking to do it. And we don't really have that in Dade. And quite frankly, you don't have it on most campuses. So like and subscribe. And if you disagree, yeah, you probably do. Do it in the comments down below. Thanks for watching.